Okay guys, welcome back to another episode of Rotten Reviews. On this edition I'm going to take a look at the 2003 movie Dreamcatcher. It has a tomato meter score of 29% and an audience score of 35%. Definitely rotten. This is most definitely a rotten and very disgusting adaptation of a Stephen King novel by the same name, Dreamcatcher. There is nothing dreamy about it, and it doesn't catch any dreams. It catches a lot of disgusting type things. I wouldn't know if this is actually an attempt at melding horror with sci-fi, with action, with a gore fest. I'm not sure what it was trying to do, but it came across as very disgusting to me. Not scary, just disgusting. Now this movie starts off in an acceptable Stephen King type story fashion with a band of characters that knew each other as kids. It goes into their childhood backstories, how they came together, how they encountered a supernatural twist to their background, and how they actually have a quite well visualized secret psychological hiding place that they share. They also share the power of telepathy. Now, all of this is standard Stephen King fare. It's quite acceptable, entertaining. It's quite a good premise. I never read the book, but as far as the movie goes, this works. That is right until the entire story diverges into from a fart joke into a bloody mess and a disgusting take on what aliens can do to humans. Think along the lines of the Alien movie, but in the most gross and disgusting way that you can think about it. Almost as though a 13-year-old had adapted it to his sick sense of humor. It is very disgusting. It is a masterpiece of I don't know, junior high disgusting fantasy. I don't know whose fantasy this was, but it was pretty bizarre. Let's get right into the rotten reviews. These reviews are still current as of October of 2019. 1 star. Loris Kazdan's adaptation of Stephen King's science fiction horror novel of the same name is stupefying snake pit of nauseating gore, despicable characters, and an imbecilic alien invasion. Right, this review leaves 1 star. I'll give it 1 star for production value and for the fact that people got paid. It helps the economy, but film-wise, nothing more. This literally peaks out at 1 star. Let's continue. 5 stars. I love this movie. I'll disagree with that, and I'll say that even taking away the gore as a satisfying alien invasion horror sci-fi film, this has an ending that is very abrupt and pointless and unsatisfying. So even if some of it could have been satisfying, the ending is just really strange. It ends almost like an episode of a TV show. In a disgusting fashion, of course. Let's continue. 3.5 stars. The dialogue in this movie is so funny. It's way, way, way out there in story terms. 4 friends bear witness to have a psychic gift with a crippled guy named Duddits, who's also an alien that comes to save the world. Only a few characters die along the way. The alien comes out of your behind and can latch onto your face and devour you whole. All the while, military men are after them. They have a place called the Memory Warehouse, of which one of the characters locks himself inside. Yeah, it's a little short snippet of a synopsis there. Yeah, there's a bad guy military commander it seems like they are an army, secret army unit of some sort. They are hunting aliens. They've been hunting aliens for a long time before this story starts. Their leader, played by Morgan Freeman, is slowly losing his mind and making crazy decisions. And a secondary military commander in the chain of command under him is played by Tom Sizemore, and he is questioning the leadership of Morgan Freeman's crazy character. This is all kind of shoehorned in with the psychic childhood friends that are encountering these strange aliens that invade your body parasitically and explode out of your lower regions. They have very colorful, inventive names for these creatures that I won't repeat, and they actually refer to them, the military characters refer to these aliens as the Ripleys. stealing a a little sly wink from the Alien franchise, but this is done far more disgustingly and crudely than the Alien xenomorph is, as far as what it does to humans. Let's continue, 3 stars. Despite the occasionally thrilling moment, some neat ideas and good performances, including an against-type performance from Morgan Freeman as the main human antagonist, it's not too hard to see why Dreamcatcher bombed, and by the looks of it, Warner Brothers expected a bomb as well, so they attached the final flight of the Osiris segment from the Animatrix with the movie when it was still in theaters. Needless to say, it didn't work. The movie's way too long, and slow pacing doesn't help one bit. I don't know if there's a slow pacing. I know the movie is long. I think it's at least 2 hours. I don't care to look up the exact running time, but it is 2 hours of pointlessness because this ends in a really bizarre way, making most of the other stuff pointless. Again, it starts perfectly as a Stephen King story. I mean, you can tell it's a Stephen King story. It's almost cliched in the way it begins. However, it just derails into complete really bad bathroom humor, over the top bloody gore along with that. Just to, I guess they think that by grossing the audience out, it'll make it a horror. That's not how you make a horror movie. I think it needs suspense. It needs, characters we care about that are, caught up in this life and death struggle. That works usually, but this is just a gore fest and a disgusting one with a lot of fart and toilet humor. It's very bad. 2 stars. Confusing as what the writing and story goes by, the unnecessary addition of alien mythology does not blend well with the relentless flashbacks. Yeah, there's a lot of flashbacks, kind of doing an it type thing where you have adult characters that something happened to them as children, and we go back in flashbacks to relive this and find out why they're all psychically and telepathically connected. This is standard Stephen King stuff, definitely, and there's nothing wrong with this. It's just what this turns into by the 20 or 30-minute mark that's quite disgusting. Again, I don't know if this is what the book does. I don't care to know, because if this is what Stephen King was going for, it's also quite disgusting, and I don't understand why he thought this type of toilet humor was fitting for a horror movie. I don't know if that's what the book does, but if that's what it does, then he's at fault too. 1 star. This is a textbook example of bad directing and bad score. You know what's really bad? There are some scenes in this movie that literally rip things off from the original Star Wars movie, and I don't know why. We have vertical wipes done for transition, just like in the first Star Wars movie. And to prove that this isn't just my imagination, there is a scene in which a character is putting on a hat, and as he puts on his hat, the Star Wars, hatch or door closing sound plays as he's pulling the hat down. For no apparent reason, it's like a joke thrown into this gore fest. So yeah, somebody's trying to throw elements of Star Wars in. It's very bizarre. I can't make heads or tails of what that was about. This is no Star Wars movie. This is complete disgusting alien invasion, gore fest, toilet humor, etc. I don't know what they were trying to do. 1 star. This movie is absolute garbage. Yes, I agree. 1.5 stars. Good premise and potential, but incredibly lousy execution. Bad CGI, terrible and unimaginable creature design, cinematography that's all over the place. It can't even decide if it wants to be a thriller or action movie. This was the movie equivalent of the Atlanta Falcons blowing their Super Bowl lead. I have never seen a movie give up so hard in the last act. Yeah, just aside from the problem with the gore and the disgusting parts, like I said, this thing kind of resolves itself in the end in a completely anticlimactic fashion that resembles a really bad and short television episode. It's really bizarre. 5 stars. I thought it was good. Sure. 1.5 stars. I liked the book, but the movie is a hot mess. Convoluted plot. Miscast Morgan Freeman. Melodramatic music. Stephen King would be better off remaking it as a miniseries. See, I'm not sure how much of this is true to his book. If it is true to his book, then this is pretty bad. Certainly he's not going to do any better. Most of his film adaptations of his books have failed. That's the bulk of them, just have failed. Now, I'm not speaking just financially. I'm speaking with what the audience thought when they walked out. So I seriously doubt Stephen King could have improved this any if he had done this all on his own. In any case, there is a miscasting of Morgan Freeman. We don't get the Morgan Freeman that we get in every other Morgan Freeman movie. We get like a very shallow military commander that's kind of a psychopath and unlikable, and he's highlighted by his crazy blonde dyed eyebrows that are like a comic book feature to him. Everything else looks like Morgan Freeman in a military outfit, except his eyebrows are really like, they look like glued on Halloween appendages that are blonde or bleach blonded white. It's very strange. I don't get what they were trying to do. That sort of thing would have worked in a comic book parody of some kind, but this movie expects you to take all of this 100% seriously. 5 stars. Dreamcatcher is a weird and bizarre sci-fi thriller that made me enjoy the whole movie. I really enjoy movies like this with characters you can care about before things get out of hand. Thomas Jane is always awesome in his movies as the lead. I'll disagree. Everybody cast in this movie, they're not bad. They don't botch their performances. One of them is really over the top and strange, but these actors are nothing remarkable. They don't stand out in a way that it makes you remember their names or what their differences were. They're basically just engaged with a lot of toilet humor amongst each other, non-stop references to farting and bathroom humor with a lot of blood thrown in on top of it. It's completely weird. There's nothing interesting. In fact, these actors probably regret that they even show up in this movie. They probably like to forget about this. 4 stars. A great sci-fi movie. Not even sure if it's sci-fi. It's more like gore horror meets teenage bathroom humor. It's disgusting. 4 stars. For those of us who enjoy a classic Stephen King story full of weird, this is a great adaptation in a sea of hits and misses. Psychics, aliens, black ops, mental hitchhikers, a group of young misfits coming together as adults, some throwback song, and dairy. If you like sci-fi with a splash of horror or horror with a lot of sci-fi, this movie isn't a waste of time by a long shot. Bonus, fart jokes. So yeah, if they're underselling it though. If you want fart joke humor, that's just the very tip of what's going to happen in this movie. Carry this all the way through as most disgusting as you can make it. It goes way beyond just the fart stuff. I don't know how anybody gives this more than 1 star, but I'm going to read these and see what happens. 5 stars. This is my all-time favorite film and the most underrated film in history. It is terrifying, funny, mysterious, and at times otherworldly. There are many interesting themes that reviewers overlook. A truly smart film. I have watched it more times than any other film, so know many of the details down to a T. After reading some bad reviews, I thought I'd add my review. The plot focuses around 5 close. Yeah, I'm not going to continue. Right off the bat, when they say in this review that this is it is terrifying, funny, mysterious, and otherworldly, and there are many interesting themes. Yeah, if you consider an interesting theme when some high school or junior high kids get some, I don't know, M80 fireworks and they shove them down toilets that are already plugged up, and then, that's so funny watching the fecal matter explode all over the restroom mixed with blood. Yeah, this is your interesting and smart theming here. It's completely disgusting and never leaves the bathroom, so to speak. 2 stars. More silly than scary. Out of all the Stephen King adaptations, this has to be in the top 5 worst. Yeah, this is probably the worst. Again, I don't know if this is true actually to what his book put out. If it is, then he's responsible. If it's not, then a serious crime was committed against Stephen King. But I don't know either way, so I can't make that call. Half a star. Only movie I attended where the audience booed and some walked out. Yeah, I could see how they would walk out. I mean, myself, I saw this on home video. I wasn't expecting much. I didn't know anything about Dreamcatcher, hadn't heard of it. Maybe that's a clue that this wasn't one of his popular books. I don't know. In any case, I just kept it running because I wanted to see just how far over the disgusting line they were going to end up, and they went about as far as they could. Again, I don't know how you could have not walked out if you were in the theater because you paid your money, and yet, yeah, when you realized how disgusting this was, and especially if you had actually drugged your kids into this, wow, you would be like grabbing them by the shirt and just pulling them out of there. It's really bad. 1.5 stars. This incomprehensible movie is such a waste of some good ideas that are executed in the worst way possible. I don't even think there are good ideas here. There's nothing here that you haven't seen in a million other movies. It's very tropey as far as action, sci-fi, horror. The only thing that's new is the bathroom humor aspect of it. It's like aliens, only imagine them coming out of the worst part of your body, and it just doesn't relent on that. This is not exciting, it's just shockingly disgusting. 1 star, one of the worst films I've ever seen. Barf. Yes, I agree. 2 stars, I do like the idea of Stephen King multiverse. All the movies are their own worlds where other stories connect, and the Dark Tower is supposed to separate and protect them all from this dark outer realm that these creatures that infest and plague. You know, they're trying to drag this into the Dark Tower series. This has nothing to do with the Dark Tower. If there are references to Derry, Maine, okay, fine. But trying to say that this is somehow in the Dark Tower line of books, or certainly in that bad movie, no, it's not. In either case, I read all the Dark Tower books. I don't think it's some masterpiece work. In fact, I think it went off the rails by the time it got to the last 3 books. It has nothing to do with this, and this has nothing to do with that, other than maybe it does mention Derry, Maine, big deal. This isn't exactly set in the town of Derry, so I don't know where they're going with this. They're wasting a lot of words here to try to take it there. 1 star, an interesting premise about monsters that come out your rear end. That's delivered extremely poorly in a laughable film that can be so confusing. Yeah, I'll largely agree with that. They're not even giving it justice to how really disgusting it is. 0.5 star, cheese, uninteresting, convoluted mess. The worst CGI this side of the mid-90s, with hammy acting that would make Shatner blush. Terrible. Yeah, one of the characters goes way over the top and develops, he's possessed by one of the aliens, and he turns from an American with an American accent into a zany British type character with his head jerking around. That's bad. Also, Morgan Freeman's character is pretty damn bad. He is playing a villain, and he's doing it in a weird way, and just his eyebrows alone are cringeworthy. It's very weird. 5 stars, innovative and original. No. 3 stars, I got 2 words for you. Shit weasels. This movie is so silly, it's a guilty pleasure. Yeah, that's one of the words that the actual characters in the film come up with for these aliens, and it literally describes what they are. 2.5 stars, a lot of talent in here, but never captures the fun of the novel. Well, I wouldn't know. 3 stars, a gripping movie, but kind of gross and scary, completely gross and not scary whatsoever. 3.5 stars, seems most can't appreciate the genius of Stephen King. Great cast. Again, I don't know if this was all his idea. If it was this written while he was still like zoned out on cocaine and booze? Because he's admitted that a lot of his work was written while he was under the influence of both of those, maybe more things than just those. This is again his own free admission of this. Was this written during that time period? Maybe it was. That would explain it. 2.5 stars, Dreamcatcher is a bizarre and ill-conceived Stephen King adaptation that's more silly than scary. Silly, but gross. I would say right away, yeah, sure, silly. If it wasn't for the sheer grossness of this, that just takes it out of silly for me. 0.5 star, if I could give negative stars, I would. 0.5 star, absolutely lost all care for this movie after the first 30 minutes. Yeah, right. Again, it starts out fine. It starts out like you would expect from Stephen King, and then it just derails into complete horror, sci-fi, tropey, shock value nonsense. It's really bad. 3.5 stars. Dreamcatcher is a decent film. It is about friends who are on a camping trip discover that the town they're vacationing in is being plagued and don't even, I'm not even going to read the rest of that. This is trying to make this into something it's not. That's not what this is. Let's continue. 1 star. So you got Morgan Freeman, huh? His iconic voice isn't enough to make this film worth watching. This movie is just cheesy. It reminded me of The Day After Tomorrow. Very cheesy. There is some gore. There's a lot of gore. But stuff you could probably get away with in a TV movie. No, they spent a lot of dough on this. This movie is not suspenseful either. It uses a familiar Stephen King cliche that has the audience getting to know each of the main characters individually. It's hard to identify with any main characters at first. Yeah, it's very cliched by Stephen King standards. We've seen this in a lot of his stories. So if you watched this and didn't even know who did it, you would right away recognize this as a Stephen King work. But then again, after 20 minutes, this goes places that you don't want it to go into. 4 stars, severely underrated. Yes, the book was better, but it isn't it always with Stephen King. No, this is severely underrated if you're not mentioning the disgusting gore. It's severely underrated. Uh, 5 stars. One of the best Stephen King adaptations. I don't know. 1 star. The incomprehensible sci-fi elements are so misguided that the initial chilling atmosphere is swiftly drenched in alien gore and an exhausting runtime. You know, I wouldn't say the chilling atmosphere is actually a chilling atmosphere. I mean, literally it is. It's in an Arctic type area. I don't know if it's Maine or Vermont or where it's supposed to be, but it's wintertime, the snow is deep, and you know, a lot of it feels like it could have all been filmed within a quarter-mile square area or a soundstage. Yeah, it's set in a bunch of snow, but that doesn't make it scarier or more interesting. It just actually makes it feel more low budget, if you will, because the whiteness and snow kind of covers up a lot of stuff. To me, that just works against it. 4.5 stars. One of my favorites. Is it flawless? Nah. Is it fun? Yes. No, it's not. I guess if you're 13 and you're drinking, illegal by the way, this would be fun. Like I said, it's stupid stuff junior high schoolers would find fun, but to the rest of us, it's just gory, pointless, and completely gross. 1 star. So insanely stupid that it might be brilliant. The plot is just ridiculous and the dialogue is horrible throughout. But I think I finally understand the term so bad it's good. You know what else is really pointless with this? Let's just go by the pointlessness of the sci-fi element. You know, the whole premise of the movie is that aliens are invading the Earth parasitically through disgusting means, right? And they're taking people over physically and mentally to carry out this invasion. And they want to spread themselves to populated areas. Okay, these aliens came to Earth in spaceships, actual spaceships like flying saucers that's shown in the movie, one of them that has crashed. The military is hunting them, shooting them down, using conventional weapons on these similar to gray aliens when they're in their spaceship. Why did these aliens choose to crash in remote areas of Vermont or Maine and then have to use humans to get to populated areas? And why did aliens with, you know, stereotypical flying saucer technology need to like go and do this parasitical business to take over humans? Why didn't they use this great technology to just take us out like they did in the 1950s, for example, in the common sci-fi movie of that time, or even like they did in Independence Day? It makes no sense. On one hand, you have an alien with all this advanced technology to get to Earth on literal flying saucers, and then at the same time they're trying to like backdoor invade us through our actual back doors as a parasite. This makes no damn sense. Right away, that's very jarring in the movie. Before it gets over the top and gory, you realize, wait a second, why are gray aliens needing these ass weasel parasites to do their business? It's kind of like you're mixing John Carpenter's Thing with a lot of other weird 1950s tropes, and none of it works, and it's very disgusting. I don't know. 3 stars. Though it's not the worst of Stephen King's works, it is one of the most forgettable. I wouldn't say it's the forgettable work because it's so disgusting. I only remember this because of the toilet humor and the gore. If you took that out, though, yeah, it would be completely forgettable. But, you know, it's hard to forget the part where you're sitting on the toilet and, you know, your innards explode out with a parasite. That's not really forgettable. It's too disgusting to be forgettable. 4.5 stars. I don't care what your reviews say. I love this film. Good for you. You're 12 going on 13. You're in junior high and you've found marijuana for the first time. I guess this is enjoyable to you. 3 stars. So recognizable as a Stephen King movie, it's quite comforting for fans of old to see that sometimes he returns to routine. Returns to routine. Okay. The cast is good, the story is a bit odd, but does work in the end, and it's not as cheesy as some of the other King films that have been churned out. Wow, this guy's it's like he's talking about a different movie. Maybe he's talking about Pet Sematary or something. He's not talking about this movie. 3.5 stars. Not great by any means and too long, but the characters are likable and interesting and the conflict is engaging. It could have been a lot better, but also a lot worse. No. The only thing engaging is it's so gory that you can't forget it. 3 stars. I don't care what anyone says about this film. Dreamcatcher was a good movie and was horribly underrated. The effects are great and the action sequences are well done. How this got panned by critics and audiences is something I'll never understand. Screw everyone who trashes it. Dreamcatcher is a great movie. Are you Stephen King or his son or a close relative that's upset by the reviews? Because the audience certainly didn't write this. Now, as far as great effects, I'll say no, hell no. Yeah, you got a scene in which the big bad villain, military guy played by Morgan Freeman, yeah, his helicopter gets shot down and he just crashes behind some trees, and that's just depicted as a big fireball, and then he's disposed of right away, and then we move on to the rest of it. What? That's a great action sequence. Even a 1980s movie with 1/3 the budget had better action sequences than this, so I disagree. 3 stars. This was an amazing movie, one of my personal favorites, but it takes a certain kind of person to understand it. Yeah, you have to be 13 and you just discovered that you and your friends can sneak out to the boys' restroom and smoke a joint in one of the stalls, and you came up with this neat little idea for a short story, and maybe you even submitted this to your high school teacher in class, and they gave you a suspension over it because it's disgusting. 4.5 stars. The Day the Earth Stood Still, Stand By Me, It, the Alien series, the Species series. Take a little bit of each of those films and you have Dreamcatcher. A film classified as a horror is more of a sci-fi psychological thriller about a group of 4 friends who save a boy from physical bullying and they receive telepathic powers. 20 years later, an alien race is taking over Earth and implanting their seeds. You'll generally know who's infected by a scar on their face. Okay, well, this reviewer is telling me something I should have mentioned. This movie definitely suffers plot-wise from just having too many damn things in it at the same time. Stephen King should have known better. Yes, you can have an alien crash and an alien invasion. Yes, you can have parasites. Yes, you can have people with telepathic powers. Yes, you can have a magical kid discovered by other kids and have an adventure there. But you've got all this stuff crammed into one movie. Was this literally written while you were drunk and on cocaine? Because if this is the way the book is, it suffers from the most the worst sins of writing that fiction writers have talked about 1,000 times over. You've got too much improbable stuff crammed into one plot. Stick with 1 or 2 elements and carry it forward. Don't cram everything but the kitchen sink into this thing and expect this mess to make sense, even without the ridiculous gore. This is ridiculous. Again, I say, if this was King in his book like this, it's a complete fail. This is a mess. 4 stars, not as bad as critics say. Need to watch more than once to understand it. No, I don't. 3.5 stars. Stephen King's novel is slimmed down and diluted to make it more watchable and is more sci-fi than thriller or horror. This was slimmed down. If the novel, again, has this much stuff crammed into it that doesn't belong together in one story, then I'd hate to see what the book had. Did the book have also like giant spiders from Mars and maybe a presidential assassination conspiracy? Because if this was slimmed down, I hate to see what was in the book. 0.5 star. To me, the worst King adaptation, period. End of discussion. 0.5 star. Crap movie, crap book. 1.5 star. Dreamcatcher starts off compelling and turns into a tedious, confusing, really stupid monster movie about people pooping out aliens. You know, I'll 100% agree with that. Very good synopsis. 2 stars. After a promising start, Dreamcatcher falls into the silly and dull category with the problem of being overlong. 4 stars. Loved the short story by Stephen King. Everything was close to the book except the ending scene. That was a little disappointing. Well, which was it? A short story or a book? I'm pretty sure it was a book. Are you telling me that it should have been a short story and he wrote it into a book? Okay, that's possible, but I'm going to take your 4 stars. I'm going to take 3 of them away and throw them in one of those toilets that exploded in this movie, and we're going to keep 1 star. 4 stars again. This movie is obviously terrible, but it's also accidentally pretty incredible. No, unless you're totally high. Okay, maybe. I don't know. 1.5 stars. Quite the mixed bag, with too much going on, yes. The acting is quite good, and there is lots of fun, especially with the psychic moments between the 4 friends and between Mr. Grey and Henry. Their backstory is interesting, but the aliens sigh. Bum lampreys for everyone. Yeah, lampreys up your bum. That's exactly what we got here. 2.5 stars. I'm not a tough critic, but this film was a letdown. There's some real craft here, but the story is interesting, and the film left me feeling cold, literally and figuratively. Best not to see it at all. Yeah, I agree. 1 star. This movie is bad. The storyline was dull and lame, and I didn't enjoy watching this at all, to be honest. I give it 1 star because the majority of the acting was good, except for the posh-sounding alien who possessed a guy, which sounded annoying and fake. Yeah. Also, the setting in the middle of a snowstorm was pretty nice to look at visually. No, that's like, a soundstage and some fans, right? But this is a terrible movie and perhaps Morgan Freeman's worst movie. Yes, I'll agree. I don't know why Morgan Freeman was in this. Maybe he had to do this to get out of something else he signed his name on. I can't imagine even back in the day why he needed to do this. It's completely bad. I'm sure he wishes to forget about it. 4 stars. Flesh-eating aliens that come out of your ass, and of course, duddits. And you're giving it 4 stars? I was with you there until I saw the 4 stars. 2.5 stars. Poor film treatment of an excellent book. Well, maybe. 3 stars. As long as you don't expect it to make much sense, Dreamcatcher is a bright spot of silliness in unsilly times. And there's no bright spot here except maybe the blood splattered across toilet seats. 4 stars. Stephen King horror tale about a mysterious finding in the woods. 4 men reunite and go to the cabin they enjoyed as kids. They encounter something really freaky. You know, this stuff about men reuniting and going to a cabin they enjoyed as kids, that doesn't even really feature in this. Yes, there's 4 men that knew each other as kids and they go to a cabin, but I'm not even sure if the plot has time to tell us this was a cabin they had when they were kids. Like, a lot of it is kind of just thrown in there and we're supposed to fill in the blank. This thing is so disgusting and horrible. I'm going to leave it at that. 35% audience score. I think it deserves that. I wouldn't mind seeing it go to a 15% audience score. Again, I say 1 star because people got paid. I don't know why people went willingly into this, though, without, this being, like, I don't know why Morgan Freeman did this without it being against his will. Maybe it was. I don't know. In any case, I will hopefully see you on a much less disgusting episode of Rotten Reviews.